might never develop because he's got so many problems.
The Los Angeles Chargers select Justin Herbert.
The most touchdowns by a rookie quarterback ever.
The most completions in history by a rookie.
This kid fun to watch or what?
What's up, guys? Welcome into another Friday Fix episode of The Cut. I'm your host, Christian Williams, and I'm here with Randy Hall. Randy, how are you?
Doing pretty good, man. First real day of March Madness. It's been absolutely insane.
How'd you bracket?
I'm not looking. No, I'm definitely. I don't think I'm winning anywhere right now. But only really 2 paid leagues this year, and you see both of them. So, well, 2 paid brackets. The rest are like prizes and everything. But you know, we both had to pick Cleveland State at least 1 or 2 of our brackets, and those ones are obviously going to be a little bit worse. Obviously, us being Cleveland State grads, we just had to, got to.
Yeah, I thought about doing a Cleveland State Final Four team, but then I was like, I'm not going to waste any money, so I didn't do that.
Exactly.
What's up, Matt? I did pop your comment up. Yes, too bad this isn't the Saints. Go vote for the Saints, and Matt will come on with us next week. So,
well, I'm pretty sure the Saints lost by probably one vote. So, I mean, as long as we get that push next week.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So if this is your first Friday Fix episode with us, we will be going over everything from the GM and the coaches to the current state of the team, how good they are, what their cap space looks like. And this one is going to be a little different because there are some new additions with NFL free agency opening up in the past week. And then we also do our top 3 acquisitions moving forward and a 3-round mock draft. But first, make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast app. Just search The Cut FFB and it'll pop up, be the first one. Follow us on socials as well at The Cut FFB. You see that down there. And then I've been getting a ton of requests for a Zach Wilson breakdown. I know Brandon Sweet already did one, so I was trying not to, but everyone keeps asking me why I have him at QB4. Variety of reasons, but they want the breakdown, so I guess I'm going to write the breakdown. Randy, do you condone this behavior? Should I move off of my Rashad Bateman article?
No, you should write Rashad Bateman. We still have at least a couple weeks until the draft. As long as I think you write about him before the week before the draft, I think we're all right. So yeah. Get Bateman done, maybe get Jonathan Adams done, we'll run through them.
Bingo, because Trey Lance is better. So is Justin Fields, but this is not a Justin Fields podcast or show, whatever this is. It's a fucking stream. Matt asked, do you think the Chargers add a wide receiver? We will definitely get to that throughout this episode. But first, we're going to get to the GM and coaching situation. So the GM is the constant. Randy, talk to me about Tom Telesco.
Hired all the way back in 2013, which seems like forever ago now. But his first draft, he pretty much nailed it. A little bit hit or miss here and there, but did land Keenan Allen. He's been amazing for them. He's been drafted in pretty solid sense. A lot of BPA for him, and we haven't really seen him shine away from getting guys with injuries or kind of poor situations. So along the lines of a guy like Dorsey, who would take the best player no matter what the cost was on or off the field and figure it out past then. And it's worked out pretty well. I know they've been hit or miss over the years, not really necessarily Super Bowl contenders, but they fielded some good teams, and they obviously nailed the quarterback draft last year. So we just got to keep building off with a new coach.
Yeah, for sure. And that new coach is Brandon Staley. He was hired a couple months ago now. We're in March. So so he was hired, I think back in January, sounds right. He is from Perry, Ohio, which I had to mention because I played against Perry in high school. So he's from my neck of the woods for sure. There's a lot of good things going around about Brandon Staley. I know we have written down here that he's obviously a first-time head coach, but the comparisons to Mike Tomlin are there. Everyone that speaks of Brandon Staley has good things to say. When he first came on, the first thing he did was reach out to all of his star players, and he just talked about the team and about life and really connected with them. He also reached out to Charger legends of the past, which is always a good thing. He's trying to learn the history of the Los Angeles Chargers. Randy, in terms of like scheme or what he's going to bring to the table in that sense, like where do you think Brandon Staley is going to take this team?
He has already said he's going to be calling the defensive plays, which makes a lot of sense. That's what he did for the Rams the last few years, 3 to be exact. I don't know about 3, but I can't remember the exact years. But obviously last year, which basically carried their team probably into the playoffs alone, a lot of star players. But guess what? He's got that here too already, as long as they can all stay on the field, that is. But he schemes to make the stars most effective. However that happens in multiple sets, that's exciting news for Derwin James, Joey Bosa. And I think they have a decent all-around defense that they're going to be really good. I know they brought in Joe Lombardi to be the offensive coordinator. I see that as a good step for Herbert. And that seems like it's going to be more geared towards kind of like the Saints offense, which is a multi-versatile attack, multi-running back system, heavy focus on Keenan Allen, but they have Mike Williams, which is something the Saints haven't had in the last 5 years or whatever. So this could be a very exciting offense. They have the tight end the Saints had. So I expect a kind of similar offense and a different defense, because he has coached different defenses for what his talent was and who his stars were. But because of like when you have a guy that could pretty much do everything in Derwin James, I mean, I expect really good things for him as long as he stays on the field.
Yeah, and that's going to be the key for Derwin for sure. I do want to address some of the comments that are popping up here. So, do we like Joe Reed? I can tell you I like him for Madden because I actually use him, but I hope they find a way to scheme him touches, because he is really nice with the ball in his hands. So I'm interested to see if they value him that way or if they do go add another wide receiver. Randy, what are your thoughts on Joe Reed?
Solid depth. I mean, I'm not overly excited about pretty much any receiver on this team that's not Keenan Allen or Mike Williams. And even Mike Williams is he's had flashes, but he's definitely underdeveloped to what they drafted him as. So hopefully with this new thing, he gets upgraded slightly. I mean, if not, he's clearly going to be gone. So yeah, for sure. And then this other comment: if Telesco is okay with extensive injury histories, could Caleb Farley be in play? I mean, corner's definitely in play for them, and we'll definitely touch on that. I don't think that Farley's going to make it all the way to their pick, though, personally. So, yes, but I don't think they need to go up and trade up for him either. So we'll see. Randy, what do you think? Do you think Farley's pretty high up on their draft board? I mean, I think he would be. I definitely think they bring in corner in this draft. I think when you cut some veteran corners, that really says that you're okay with where you're at and you're going to try and bring in a good influx of talent there. I mean, I'm excited for what they do. I think they draft corner early. That's day 1 or day 2 for sure. Yeah. Farley, if he's there, I think he's highly considered, but with what they've done to kind of retool this offensive line, I think O-line may be their biggest focus at 13.
Yeah. So that's a pretty good transition into the state of the team. So really, like, they were good against the pass on defense, and they were a good passing team on offense, 7th in pass DVOA, but 31st in rush DVOA. Now you have to remember that they lost Eckler for a time last year. Josh Kelly was their lead back, and then who's the big guy that I can't remember right now? The guy, the Adam Gase guy, Kalen Ballage. Yeah. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Ballage played for them, but on defense, very, very mediocre at best. So 17th against the pass, 26th against the run. Definitely going to look to upgrade that defense, I think. But in terms of offense, the reason their rush DVOA was that bad was partially because their offensive line was bad. And we talked about it. They did start to retool that offensive line, but there's still work that needs to be done. Now, their current cap situation is glorious compared to the rest of the league. Randy and I, when we talked about how we were doing this episode, we were like, okay, well, maybe we transition to only talk about the signings because most teams are going to be out of cap. That is not the case with the Los Angeles Chargers. They still have $33.2 million. They already released Casey Hayward and Trey Turner. Who else do you think they could cut if they feel the need to add like some marquee names?
Yeah, I'm honestly, with how the market's seeming, I don't think they I don't think they need to cut anyone else to bring in marquee names with as much cap room as they have. But the other guys that are technically cut candidates would be Harris, a DB, and Mike Williams, because he's scheduled to make $15.5 million. He may get cut or just restructured into maybe more of a long-term deal, like a 3-year deal, to make this a little bit better. It's hard because they have the cap. I don't think they cut him, but if they are considering, like we kind of joked about, signing like Galladay or having Mike Williams, I think that's a clear choice. But yeah, we'll see. That number's huge, but they have a bigger number in cap room. So
yeah, and they do have some of their own guys that they could still look to bring back. Now, they already lost quite a few as well. So some of their key free agents, they've got Melvin Ingram that they did they also release him, but not this week, or was he always a free agent?
He's a free agent.
Oh, okay. Melvin Ingram, Hunter Henry, Denzel Perryman, Tyrod Taylor, Michael Davis, they were able to retain, which is good news. That's definitely going to help their secondary. Virgil Green, Nick Vigil, they already lost. Tyrod Taylor, I didn't mention, but he signed with the Houston Texans. Denzel Perryman signed with the Carolina Panthers, and Hunter Henry signed with, obviously, the New England Patriots, which we've talked about the Patriots way too much, so I'm not going to expand on that. Quite a few other guys as well. So, Randy, do you think there's anyone worth bringing back other than Michael Davis, who they already have?
I think either one of the guards with Lamp or Trey Turner would be worth a look. Obviously, Trey Turner was just kind of getting overpaid, but I don't see you getting cut because you're overpaid and then taking a smaller deal from the same team. And Forrest Lamp was okay. He's only going to make like $3 million in the contract, so maybe that's why you bring him back for depth. I think Ingram would be a smart re-signing for them. He fits with the system, would love to use, obviously. He already works well with this team, and you could still draft a young edge to maybe only sign him for a 1-year deal to just kind of figure it out, because you got the cap, and obviously his market isn't as high as the guys like Judon and everyone else, so maybe you can get him for cheaper than what was expected, which I think was like 11.5 per year. He's not getting that, so maybe you could bring him back on a deal like Hassan Reddick got this year, where it's like a decently low for what the talent is baseline, but a lot of incentives to get it up to about 10.
Yeah.
But that's probably about it. Like, they don't have any like marquee guys. Like Michael Davis was smart to bring back, but besides that, everyone else, the value is kind of gone.
Yeah, for sure. And now they have signed some guys already. So the main guy that they have signed, Corey Linsley, one of, if not the best center in football last year, signed a 5-year, $62.5 million deal. I think that, like, in terms of what they were working with, this is one of the biggest free agent signings across football in terms of the perceived value that it's going to add to the team. They also did add Jared Cook on a 1-year, $6 million deal. In an ideal world, he is just coaching up Kyle Pitts at the tight end position this year, but I don't think that's going to be the case because Kyle Pitts isn't going to make it there. And then lastly, they added Matt Feeler on a 3-year, $21 million deal. So he's getting 7 per. You have to assume that he starts at either right guard or right tackle. They have a right tackle. They don't have a good right tackle. They don't really have any good offensive linemen. So pretty much what we're saying is they invested a ton of money in fixing that with their first 3 signings here as free agency opened up, which was good. I think Justin Herbert's probably happy about that. All right, Randy, let's talk through some of the team needs outside of what they've already added. Obviously, what would you say their main need is at this point?
Tackle, for sure. There's not really there's not a tackle you're excited about on the roster. They got rid of they let
Bulaga?
someone walk. Well, he's gone for a different reason, but
Yeah.
Well, no, he's there, right?
He might still be there, yeah.
Either way, they need a left tackle bad. And when you have a rookie quarterback, second-year quarterback, that really exploded out of the seed, you have to build that offensive line, or else we're going to get another Joe Burrow situation. We don't want that. Past that edge, for sure. Obviously, if they re-sign Ingram, that's a little bit lesser of a value, or a need, I guess I should say. Safety, cornerback, wide receiver depth, for sure. Interior offensive line still, linebacker, tight end of the future, running back of the future. Because, I mean, I like what Josh Kelly brought to the table from the draft, but we didn't see much from him last year. D-tackle someone, and a backup quarterback, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I think backup quarterback is a sneaky big need. Hopefully they don't puncture this one's lung, but I have a feeling they're going to add one in free agency, which leads me into my top 3 acquisitions. So we've already alluded to some of the things that I'm going to do here. So first things first, let's bring back Melvin Ingram on a 1 year up to $10 million, like Randy said. I think that makes a ton of sense. I think that, he doesn't necessarily fit what they might do, but he's a good enough player that if you get him on a cheap deal, you can work him in, even if he's just a rotational guy, and you add elsewhere as well. I think that should be priority number 1, as long as the relationship's still good. Second on my list, adding Alex Smith. Obviously, Alex Smith and Justin Herbert are completely different quarterbacks, but there's really not too many good veteran options out there. I mean, Mike Glennon got signed, so that's like the cream of the crop there. You already missed out on him. So at this point, Alex Smith is what you'll have to settle for. And I don't think Alex Smith is going to be looking to get a starting role, partly because there really aren't too many starting roles out there. So 1 year, $4 million for him. And then lastly, Mackenzie Alexander, the corner from Cincinnati, who had a decent year, not great, but I'll bring him in on $6 million per and just hope that it works out. They could use secondary help, but essentially, they have enough money to toss around where these cheaper deals make some sense, where it's just flyers on guys and you hope they land and they fit the scheme well.
100%. Alex Smith, they need a backup quarterback. It would make more sense to bring in a guy like him who is basically going to be a coach for you and a good last-minute replacement than really drafting anyone, because at a certain point you're wasting a pick for having this young a quarterback. You really don't need that kind of backup. I mean, if you're going to draft one in the 6th or 7th, that's different, but then they're never going to touch the field anyways. So unless they turn out to be Tom Brady, which won't happen probably ever again. So smart sightings there.
Yeah.
For me, I went with Larry Warford, a versatile offensive lineman. Definitely could be your starting guard to pair with Lindsley, and you probably still need another one. I'm assuming they're going to – you still need 6 or 7 linemen to really matter. This guy, it's anywhere from 2 to 3 years, $4 to $6 million per. I think it's probably more towards the 4 at this point. If you're not signed already, your evaluation's getting lower and lower. And then, but he could be a perfect starter for you day one. He had to get cut because, not like the Saints have money. Second, I went with a guy I've talked about before, Josh Reynolds, who's still in the market. Wide receiver market's been kind of rough. I went for a 3-year, $15 million deal, so 5 per. He might get 6 or 7 per, but 15, 18 million for 3 years. That's pretty solid. And he's a guy that really thrives in the slot. They drafted Hill to do that last year. He couldn't really get on the field. Obviously, Keenan Allen works. Same with Joe Reed. Obviously, Allen works all over the field, and maybe that incorporates into some what Reynolds would do. Reynolds is also a good blocker. I think it works out perfectly, especially if you have a little bit of a drop down in tight end capability this year, to make sure you value that slot position in the draft or free agency. And he has a lot to prove, so this deal would be really good for him. And then finally, to get another edge rusher body, definitely a 3-4 mold, I went with Jeremiah Atachu from the Broncos. That name, I'm sorry.
Atachu.
It's Atachu, yeah. But
Sweet
that's a cheap deal. 2-year, probably $6 to $8 million for him, not per in total. But that he had some great rotational depth for the Broncos this year. I think he could fight to be a starter with a rookie. Either way, you're going to need depth, and he's going to have moving pieces on that defense. So getting a cheap guy here, worst case to be a depth, best case to be a young starter for you, works out great.
Yeah, I love all these ads. I do think, Josh Reynolds at 3 years, 5 per would be kind of expensive just with how the wide receiver market's looking. Like, you have to figure like that's only $3 million less than Juju Smith-Schuster. You know,
on a
saying?
1-year deal.
Fact, yeah. I mean, that's facts.
On a 1-year deal, when the cap is going to jump up $30 million next year, most likely. That's why he took a 1-year deal. Figured he might as well stay at a 1-year deal. Reynolds, if he's going to leave, I figured 15 for 3. But if he signs a 1-year, $5 million deal, fuck, that's fine too.
Yeah.
I mean, you get to really figure him out no matter what, and then you get to probably pick between him and Mike Williams next year, and that's, fortunately for Mike Williams, truth, there's probably Reynolds. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, it'd at least be close. It'd be worth the conversation. But
yeah.
All right, let's supplement these free agent signings with a 3-round mock draft. So, Randy, since you just talked about your free agents, you get to go first. So you get to say your guy first, and we'll go dueling the way we.
Okay. Well, a guy that on our last podcast I was all but drooling over at offensive tackle, Christian Darrisaw, just an incredible talent. Really an incredible run blocker, a great pass protector. My offensive tackle 3. In most scenarios, I think that Slater and Sewell are off the board. Clearly Sewell, but Slater as well. And I obviously Darrisaw's the best offensive lineman left for me. He fills an immediate starting left tackle need. He's going to be really good from day one. You got to invest in Justin Herbert's future. Let's keep him upright. Let's get he won't be the best offensive tackle at the end of this, but I'd rather get a Jedrick Wills and instead of waiting and taking a shot at a guy that could end up becoming this year's Andrew Thomas. So,
yeah, and I went with kind of the same mindset. I went with a guy that does have a little bit more capability at multiple positions, I think, and Elijah Vera Tucker at the 113. Either way, I think offensive line should be the pick here. Now, some people tell me, whether it's me reading, listening, or whatever on Twitter, maybe it is, that Elijah Vera Tucker has better film at tackle than he does at guard. And to that, I say, I think you're crazy. I think he's best suited as a guard. But the thing is, the Chargers definitely need a guard on the left side, and he has the ability to probably start at left tackle. It's kind of like what we talked about on our episode on Thursday, where like Rashawn Slater, he can definitely play tackle at the next level, but he might be better at guard. That's the case with Elijah Vera Tucker as well. So I went with him just for the fact that, like, if he doesn't work out, we've seen the film. We know that he can kick inside. Granted, like, you going with a true left tackle, probably from, so true left tackle from day one, probably makes a tad more sense. But sometimes, that positional versatility does appeal to teams, I guess. And then go with your second pick. We'll go back and we won't snake it.
Okay, sounds good. I went with Joseph Asai, a great 3-4 edge from Texas. He's been consistently forcing the draft network and other places have consistently been placing him down boards. He is a little bit more raw than other prospects. He really only has one move at the moment, but he's going to an defense that's really going to force him to grow, and I think he's going to turn out to be a really good edge rusher. It's a perfect fit. I think he's here in the top 50, and at 47, it's a solid pick, and you solved your tackle, and you solved an edge problem, and you just got to keep moving down the board.
Yeah, I like it. I do think that he's probably like one of the better fits for what this defense is going to be. So it does make a ton of sense. I told you before we started recording, I said, yeah, that's one of the best fits in the draft, I think. And especially with how athletic he is, he jumped like 87 inches, which is definitely an exaggeration, but he jumped in the 40s, and he's a big dude. So
he's an insane athlete, and if you're telling me that Staley's not going to figure out how to use him best, you're crazy.
Yeah. I think once teams get word of how good of an athlete he is, he might not be there, but I think that's a guy that the Chargers would go up and get as well. So
possibly.
All right, and then my second pick, Ifeatu Melifonwu, the corner out of Syracuse. This guy, holy shit, he's an athlete too, which you can see on film for sure. He was definitely largely athlete only in 2019, but his film in 2020 was fun. He is very, very quick. He's a really, really physical, good tackling corner. And while I think he makes sense in the first round for a team, I also think that teams are going to fall in love with Greg Newsome for whatever reason. I think that's where we're at. I have Melifonwu definitely well above most of the second tier corners. He is the top of my second tier. So Melifonwu would just bring, I wouldn't say like he's a blanket corner. I think he definitely is a man corner, and I think that he can get down the field and make a tackle and provide help in run support as well. So
100%. I think I've expressed my absolute joy watching Melifonwu film on here many, many times. So while I didn't take him here, I went a little bit different direction. I think he's incredible. I went with a little bit more of a risky corner pick. Paulson Adebo. I will say this is a guy that isn't talked about a lot, and I do try and switch it up for these shows. I think he fits perfectly with this. He is going to be an outside corner, no question, and I think that's going to fit perfectly with what they've done this offseason, cutting certain people, and who they have left at veteran presence, and who they re-signed to be more of an inside-outside corner. I think this works out best for them. I will say this could be slightly influenced by me and our friend and contributor Adam's ability to be on the Stanford Pro Day yesterday. But he had some great answers. When you actually, I went down and looked at more tape afterwards. I looked at his Pro Day. He's an incredible athlete that I think has just been driven down boards because we didn't see him. He got a little bit banged up, and then obviously he opted out this year. I think he is going to shock some people once he gets drafted. Same with Walker Little from the same media day, but Adebo is a great outside corner that does everything well. We can play in every scheme. That's going to fit perfectly with what this multiple defense is going to look like.
Dude, also major shout out to Adam for the question to Walker Little. Like that was outstanding. Adam, if you're still watching, like that was an awesome question, dude. So major ups. If you guys are curious about it, he posted an article, and then also All About the Birds. I don't know their Twitter at, but they tweeted it out. So fun stuff. But the Adebo pick, I definitely like. I think teams are going to be all over the board on him because I think he does have like slight issues. But you think about it, like so did J.C. Horn heading into this year, and then he fixed them. And when I think of those two players, I think of them in the same light. Like J.C. Horn, super physical, super good athlete, I think, and then Paulson Adebo, same way. Do you think that teams are going to look at him on day two, though, just because of that athleticism and that size?
I do. Literally, the versatility is what I think is going to drive him up boards.
Yeah.
I think I could wait to 97, but then you're taking the risk. I'm not taking a risk with a guy that if I truly want to run a multiple set and need an outside corner that can do man, zone, different types of zone, some different kinds of bracket coverages, and is kind of viewed down upon at the moment, I think you have to take a Debo. And
Yeah.
I obviously I think Melifonwu is better, but there's a whole 30 picks later, so there's a reason for that.
For sure. Yeah. All right. I'll move on to my first third round pick, and it is Quincy Roche, who I believe either I or Sweet talked about last week, or maybe you.
It was Sweet and myself.
Yeah. So Quincy Roche, this is a guy that's going to keep coming up because I think he is a solid like day 2, probably round 3 player where he isn't as good of a fit as Joseph Osai, I don't think. But Roche did kind of show that he can be a hand in the dirt player or he can be a stand-up edge rusher. And so that versatility definitely pushes him up to that 60 to 80 range rather than waiting until almost the 100th pick, because I think teams are going to like at least what he did at Temple. He put on some good film at Miami, not great, but he has a little bit of bend. He's got a lot of explosiveness. It's a guy that I think a lot of teams are going to be onto. So I went with you went with the downgrade at corner. I went with the downgrade at edge rusher. So same line of thinking though. Let's move to your second, third round pick.
Yeah, I went with Aaron Banks, guard from Notre Dame. He is enormous for a guard. He's basically a tackle because he's like 6'5", like 325 or something like that, maybe 305. I can't really remember off the top of my head, but he's a really big dude. But he plays great leverage play. I really do like what he can do, what he can do, whatever. But it's a really good guard that I think could start day 1. And that's what I was going with this last third round pick. I consider what you did. Obviously, we looked at what I had in my sheet before this, but Aaron Banks is a guy that I think is going to rise up into the third round by the end of this, just because of his really explosiveness, kind of versatility to play both tackle and guard, but I think he stays at guard. But he can play either side. He comes from a lineage of Notre Dame linemen that tend to be incredibly smart and adaptable and useful in almost every scheme in the NFL. But with his ability to really play better at his size than he should, I think he's going to translate well to the next level. He's played against top talent. He's shown dominance at that level. I think he could start day 1. Maybe he's not going to be a game changer for you. But the other person I was thinking of here, like Josh Meyer, like he's never played guard. They've signed one of the best centers in the league. So do you get a guy that played center in a zone scheme that's never played guard, or do you get a guy that plays guard? I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you get the guy that plays guard.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely love this pick. I think Banks has some versatility where, like, even if they go with a few power fronts, like I think he's able to operate in a few different schemes, and you don't really get that out of guys that you're selecting in the third round. No. Not all the time, at least. So definitely a good pick. I went in a different direction. So I know we talked about how bad the defense is, and then a few of my signings and draft picks here are offense, but Hunter Long sitting there at the 97th overall pick would be kind of a dream scenario, I think, for the Chargers. I know they like what they have in Donald Parham. They also signed Jared Cook. However, neither of those guys are their future at the tight end position, and Justin Herbert's definitely going to need a big guy to throw to. Obviously, for this year, that's Cook, but you bring in Hunter Long to learn under Jared Cook for a year, and then also continue working on that blocking so he can be used in that type of scheme. That would be ideal. Hunter Long definitely is like not my top tight end prospect, but here at the back of the third, I think all of those guys are going to be gone. So I went with Hunter Long. What do you think of Hunter Long, Brady?
I like Hunter Long. I think him or Yeboah or But I mean, that's a class for me, like a tier, not a class, a tier for me. So I guess that's where I would stop. But there's other tight ends you can get a little bit later. They're gonna do about the same thing, but maybe not as versatile. Like most of the guys later are either pure great blockers or have high upside athleticism and hands. He's a good mixture of both, especially with the upgrades we saw at the Senior Bowl. So you got Cook in on a good, quick salary. You have Parham. Like, if you bring Hunter Long too, you have 2 tight ends to take a shot on for the next couple of years, and hopefully one works out.
Yeah. Good question here. Why did they let Henry go? Money. I know they have money, but I don't think they wanted to invest that much money in that position.
Yeah, and while we said that this GM definitely will draft people with injuries, that's what he did with Hunter Henry. And while he's been really, really good, he's also been really, really hurt every season. Maybe they wanted to pay him close to that, but a little bit less because of that injury history. While the Patriots are just like, I'm coming for Tom. I have to try and meet Tom in the Super Bowl. I have to sign everyone in the fucking world. But
So
with
true.
that, I think they knew they could get Jared Cook in with their new coach in, offensive and defensive wise. I think he was a great target for them, and you could still draft and get a Hunter Henry minor ability, like Hunter Long can become Hunter Henry. Honestly,
Plus, I mean, first name already down.
Yeah,
already
we're-
got the first name down. So
if only it was the last name, so they didn't have to change, buy more jerseys.
Right.
But that they would have to have fans.
Ooh,
But they clearly have fans if they won the poll. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, so your draft, Christian Darrisaw, Joseph Osai, Paulson Adebo, Aaron Banks. My draft, Elijah Vera Tucker, Fatu Melifonwu, Quincy Roche, and Hunter Long. Again,
Yeah.
same kind of ideas across the board, other than that last pick. And
when you have the what ended up being a young stud quarterback, it's hard to not pick just a ton of weapons for him. But I want the more protection route with no weapons at all, actually. But I think you could get when you sign Reynolds, I think you can get a developmental tight end in the 5th, maybe another a 6th round shot at wide receiver to get some more help there. They need depth there, but depth with upside, which they have, but no one has quite worked out yet.
Yeah.
I will say we don't necessarily click on everyone's messages. We do look at them. I look at them more when the graphics are up, by the way, just so you guys know. But thank you guys always for being out here commenting. Shout out to Maraxis and Wustamas that are here every week. It feels like. I think you guys missed 1 week, and it was a little bit more less chaotic. But thank you guys for always coming out. But yeah, we're not from the same hometown. We went to college together. Same major, same classes, everything. We scheduled classes together.
yeah,
All we do is text each other and talk football. So yeah, that's
talk football. And you know what else we talk, Randy? Sometimes not normally via text, but normally on these shows.
This is gonna be an ad. Oh, okay, Marvel talk.
It's gonna be Marvel talk.
I was like, bro, if you transition to an ad, I'm getting off the call. I swear. These usually don't have the ads.
Facts. Yeah. Did you watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier today?
I did not, only because there's been so much basketball. We're gonna have to talk about this later. I have seen like one scene from it, so I don't want to give a spoiler. Also, usually when we talk about it, it's not like the freshest thing possible. But this is the first day launch. I will say, is it just the one, or do they give a little bit of a batch again?
It's just one because it's only 6 episodes and they're almost an hour long. So today was 48 minutes.
Okay,
So,
perfect. I'm gonna watch it probably tonight. But
it's good, man. I will say my non-spoiler review, not as exciting as you would hope for, but what they're setting up seems to be a solid little thing. And then I did see some Easter eggs, but I'm not going to go into those because no spoilers.
Yeah, I figured the first one would give more of like what the show's going to be about, and then honestly, I think the next 3 to 4 is going to be completely all action, probably, because that's what we kind of are expecting from these two characters. But again, it's not like, I mean, obviously Falcon doesn't have that much fucking backstory at all right now in the movies, where Winter Soldier clearly does, because he's been basically an integral
Right.
part the entire time. So we'll see.
Yeah, you're gonna get a lot of his backstory, I
Jesus.
will say, in the first one. Okay, and then the other thing I wanted to talk about, do you plan to watch the Snyder Cut?
Yeah, I will. Just to give it a shot. I mean,
It was good.
I know,
It was
but
really
like Justice League wasn't good. So I'm gonna give it the shot it deserves with a clear like focus going into it. But I will say I could drink a lot and fast, but I have not chugged 13 Bud Lights in 4.3 seconds like at once. Like that's 13 ounces, yeah, but not 13 Bud Lights.
Yeah. I mean, you've probably come close though. Let's be honest.
I don't know. I understand I'm the perennial first pick in the case races, but that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that is pretty absurd. All right, dude. Do you have anything else for the good of the order here?
Well, we will be back next Friday, maybe with a slightly different setup, because free agency will pretty much all be forgotten, and it looks like the Saints might win. So that might be a little bit more difficult.
It will be. But Matt will be here, hopefully.
Yeah. Either way, we'll figure it out. We might add another round or two, but we'll go over whatever signings and all that as well. Maybe that goes a little bit more in depth to how it'll play into like fantasy, as well as the draft. But we'll get to that when we get to it, and hopefully we have a little bit more of a a Winter Soldier and Falcon review next week. So we'll just see that.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And hopefully you watch the Snyder Cut before then.
What are we doing? We haven't talked. What's our show Monday? What?
Not sure yet. I'm thinking interior offensive line, but I'm not really ready for interior offensive line.
I would like that to be the Wednesday recording, if I'm being honest. So we'll figure something out. You know,
we'll get something.
We'll figure a little something out.
I'm positive of that. All right. Well, we do have a couple of interviews lined up. I am not gonna spoil any more freaking interviews. So those are coming. So
sounds good.
Probably not Monday though. But all right. For Randy Hall, I'm Christian Williams. We will talk to you guys on the podcast on Tuesday, and then next Friday back for our Friday fix.